Let's look at graph sketching today. So graph sketching is very important if you are a secondary 3 student and you're going to be taking your WA1. So this is a skill you must have in order to do well. So when we look at graph sketching, right, there are two main kinds of question. If you're looking at example 1 as well as example 2, right? Example 1 for this question is already in the completed the square form. So a lot of times there are many questions in part A where they expect you to complete the square for a quadratic expression. Okay, then for this one over here, this is not in the form of completing the square. This is actually a factorized form. So both of these, when you expand, they look like a typical quadratic equation. Okay, so when you want to do different kind of questions like this, the steps are more or less the same, just that for this one is a little bit more troublesome. So we're going to start with this one here first. So when you want to sketch graph, always remember you have three things you need to do. Number one, find the x-intercepts. There's a possibility that there's no x-intercept. Okay, but always try to find them first. Next, you find the y-intercept. Then you find the coordinates of the turning point. So coordinates of the turning point can refer to your maximum or your minimum point. So we're going to start with example 1 first. So what I'm going to do is, first thing first, we're going to find the x-intercept. So when you want to find your x-intercept, right, always remember you are finding values for x. So what you want to do is you're going to let the other alphabet y equals to 0. Okay, so what we have here is that you're going to put 0 inside here. So we have x minus 3 square minus 25 equals to 0. You do not expand, just bring over the 25 first. So when you bring over the 25, positive 25, open up the square, is square root 25, positive square root 25, and negative square root 25. Always remember there are two answers. So don't be shocked if there are instances where your answers over here, right, when you square root, it's not a perfect square, it's not a nice number, so you get decimals, it's fine. Okay, no problem. This one I purposely chose a nice number so we can see clearly. So bring over, x is equals to 8, x is equals to negative 2. So these are my x-intercepts. So knowing my x-intercepts, right, it allows me to see where is my graph intersecting the x-axis. Okay, so it's a little bit to the right, because more to the right, because 8, right, is way bigger, right? So you can see later, you can do like a quick visualization. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to do is find your y-intercept. So finding your y-intercept, y has a value, so you're going to let x be 0. So when you let x be 0, put inside here. So my y is 0 minus 3 square minus 25. Don't waste your energy. Just press your calculator and then you will get negative 16. Okay, so this is your y-intercept. That means it's going to cut the y-axis. So when it's in the completed square form, right, it's very easy to find your turning point. If you do not know how, please watch the previous video. I think it's on completing the square, okay? So what we have is always look out for this x square. So this is a smiley graph. So smiley graph tells you that this is your minimum point. So minimum point, make this part become 0. So your x has to be 3 and this is your y coordinate. This is the good thing about completing the square. Okay, if you don't understand this part, watch the previous video. I don't want to put it in here, another video will be too long, okay? So now we're going to start to sketch. So as we start to sketch, right, draw out your axis, your x and y axis. Always remember, label first, then you start. Okay, so now what we have is I will always start by labeling the x-intercepts. So I can see, where did it go? I will always start by labeling my x-intercept. So my x-intercept is negative 8, 8 and negative 2. So you look something like this. Can you see this? Okay, so you put to scale. So this is negative 2 and this is 8. Make sure it's about there. You cannot like, some of you all just happily draw, yay, symmetrical. No, you must make sure that the values are about to scale one. Okay, so then after that, what you're going to do is just try to smoothen your curve out. It's a smiley curve, right? Because it's positive x square, right? So I'm just going to just draw it out in pencil first, okay? So make it as symmetrical as you can. All right, adjust it accordingly. Use your eraser, whatever. So mine should look something like that. All right, so once you have the shape out already, easy next few steps is label your y-intercept. So your y-intercept is negative 16 and then label your turning point. So just do a quick check for your turning point's position. Positive 3 for x seems like it. Negative 25, way lower than negative 16. So this is how you sketch your graph. Okay, then most importantly, don't forget, go and label your graph. Some teachers are very particular, so have that good habit from here. So sketching your graphs, x-intercept, okay, x-intercept, y-intercept, your coordinates of your turning point. Good enough already. Alright? Okay, so let's look at this bottom one. So this one over here, right? Usually students will have a little bit more problem because the turning point, right, is not that easy to find. So, but we do step 1, step 2, step 3. We don't jump steps, okay? So for x-intercept, you're going to let y equals to 0. So this is put 0 inside here. So we have x minus 2 x minus 6 equals to 0. So solve. All right, no one should have any problem with this. Okay, so these are my x-intercepts. All right, so it gives you a gauge of where your graph is again, right? Next thing is, as per normal, find your y-intercept. So y-intercept, what are you going to do? You're going to let x equals to 0, just put inside here, okay? So this is y equals to 0 minus 2, 0 minus 6. That's positive 12. So that's my y-intercept, where it cuts the y-axis. So this part is slightly more troublesome. I'm going to do it in bright pink. So what you need to check is this is your minimum point, right? Because it's a smiley graph. So I'm going to put down my minimum point. So this is not as straightforward as using the completing the square form, because completing a square form allows you to see the coordinates very quickly, right? So what I want you to understand is if you do a quick sketch, okay? So let's say now we just sketch. Wait, I can't find my pencil. Okay, here. So let's say I do the same thing. I do a quick sketch. I label my x-axis as well as my y-axis. Okay. So here is my y. Here is my x. Okay, I think you adjust my my y-axis a bit, because where's my coordinate? My coordinates is 2 and 6, right? So 2 and 6, make sure you just draw it out first. Okay, have it nicely like that, symmetrical. Then we label. So 2 and 6. 2 and 6. Okay, then the next thing here is you can see this is 12, right? So we are happy with this. So the one that we always have a little bit more problem is we need to find the minimum point. So minimum point, what you need to understand is it's in the middle, correct? There's always this thing called the line of symmetry, right? Okay, so when you want to find the middle of these 2 points, the technique is what? So the technique is you're going to add the two coordinates together. Okay, divide by 2. So this is 4. So your x, right, is actually equals to 4. Can you see that? So how do you find the y coordinate? Just happens when x equals to 4, right? Put back inside here. So your y will be, okay, so just press calculator. 4 minus 2 and 4 minus 6. So this one will give me negative 4. So this will be my coordinate, negative 4, which you should always be very careful. See, positive 4 for the x, negative 4. Seems like it, right? 12, everything should be to scale. Then most importantly, we don't forget to label so that we don't lose marks unnecessarily. I mean, it's not that they will penalize, but we just want to be very careful. Okay, so if I can add one concept from here, right, I want to actually talk about one thing. It's very common that the question asks for equation of the line of symmetry. Okay, equation of the line of symmetry. So there's a reason why it's called equation. There's a reason why it's symmetrical. So this is the line here. Equation, you must always have an equal sign. So for this one over here, if I were to draw this line, what axis did it cut? So it's x equals to 3. Whereas for this one, the line of symmetry is x equals to 4. You don't have to write this on your graph, but most probably this will be one of the questions that they're going to ask. Okay, so this is how you sketch graphs with completed the square form as well as factorizing form. So if you are given a typical, how to put it, quadratic, right? You can choose whichever method you prefer. Okay, either you're completed the square or factorizing. Nice number, use factorizing lah. If cannot, then no choice, use completing the square. But most of the time, they will guide you. Part A will tell you factorize this or complete the square. Then you can see how you can sketch from there. Okay, so practices on the next page. Please go ahead and practice and try, okay?